You know what is truly unsettling about Australia? At this very moment, as you read these words, entire towns across the country sit utterly abandoned. Classrooms still contain desks. Hospital equipment remains where it was last used, now corroding in silence. In homes where families once shared their final dinner together, the doors closed and were never opened again. These are not relics from ancient centuries. They are places that were thriving within living memory, communities where children were raised, businesses operated, and ordinary lives unfolded, until, for one reason or another, everyone simply left. Some towns were poisoned by the very industries that built them. Others were deliberately drowned beneath dam waters. A few were erased so completely that only concrete slabs mark where entire neighborhoods once stood. And at number 1 on this list lies a place considered so dangerous that Australia removed it from the map, dismantled road signs, and acted as though it had never existed, because every single breath of air there carries the potential to kill. These are 10 abandoned places scattered across Australia that most people have never heard of, ranked from fascinating to deeply haunting. Among them are towns where a future president of the United States once lived, towns that re-emerge from underwater graves during drought, and towns where more than 2,000 people have died, and the toll is still rising. Let's begin. Number 10, Nunez, New South Wales. Located in the Woolgan Valley approximately 189 kilometers northwest of Sydney, Nunez has a current population of 0. What makes this place extraordinary is the shock of encountering massive industrial ruins in the middle of dense bushland. You walk through pristine forest and suddenly confront a towering 15-meter retaining wall known as the Big Wall, alongside 90 beehive-shaped coke ovens, the largest collection of their kind in Australia. There are crumbling brick kilns, paraffin sheds, oil washing tanks. The sheer scale stuns first-time visitors. Nunez was a shale oil mining town operating from 1906 until 1932. At its height, hundreds of residents lived here, supported by a school, hotels, and full community infrastructure. The Commonwealth Oil Corporation invested heavily, constructing a 50-kilometer railway line across punishing terrain and even carving a 400-meter tunnel through a mountain. Backing came from London financiers, including a Nobel Prize-winning scientist and the owner of England's largest colliery. Then petroleum changed everything. Cheaper imported oil made the operation financially unviable. By 1932, it was shut down. The railway was dismantled. Valuable materials were stripped from buildings. Within years, the bush began reclaiming it all. A bushwalker who visited recently described the experience as surreal. Immaculate national park scenery interrupted by enormous industrial remains, like a vanished civilization. Access is no longer easy. After a landslip at Woolgan Gap, the road collapsed, forcing visitors to hike roughly 10 kilometers. It is suited only to adventurous, self-sufficient campers. The irony is sharp. Today, the Woolgan Valley hosts Emirates' only resort, where rooms cost more than $3,000 per night. Luxury tourism now overlooks the ruins of a failed industrial dream. Glowworms inhabit the old railway tunnel. Infrastructure intended to project permanence lasted just 26 years. Even monumental, expensive construction can be undone by market forces. Number 9. Farina, South Australia. Farina lies 540 kilometers north of Adelaide along the Oldgon railway alignment. Once home to around 600 people, it now has virtually no permanent residents. The town's name means flower in Latin, a hopeful reference to wheat farming in a region that receives only about 150 millimeters of rainfall annually. Wheat never grew there. Not once. Established in 1878 as a railway town and pastoral service center, Farina boasted 2 hotels, an underground bakery, a bank, 2 breweries, a general store, an Anglican church, 5 blacksmiths, a school, and even a brothel. Today, golden stone ruins rise against red earth and endless blue sky. The Transcontinental Hotel's walls still stand. Summer temperatures climb above 45 degrees Celsius, and the silence is so absolute you can hear your own heartbeat. The underground bakery was constructed below ground level to escape the relentless heat, a physical testament not merely to adaptation but to stubborn determination. The town's decline was gradual. Nearby mines shut in 1927. The railway shifted west in 1980, the school closed in 1957, the post office in 1960, the general store in 1967. By the early 1980s, the last residents had departed. Yet Farina's story did not end there. In 2008, Tom Harding founded the Farina Restoration Group. Every year from May to July, volunteers from across Australia gather for an 8-week working bee. In 2018 alone, 205 participants contributed 18,138 volunteer hours. 9 buildings have been restored, and the underground Scotch oven, dormant for nearly a century, is operational again. Carrie, a baker with more than 50 years of experience, volunteers for the full 9 weeks, baking bread, pies, and pasties daily in the Outback. Visitors describe the experience of purchasing fresh bread from an 1880s underground oven in the middle of nowhere as surreal and unexpectedly hopeful. There is no phone reception unless you climb to the Anzac Memorial and hold your phone at just the right angle. In the cemetery lies an Afghan corner, headstones inscribed in English and Arabic, all facing Mecca. Graves of Afghan cameleers who helped build Australia, yet are largely forgotten. Volunteers now travel 600 kilometers to restore ruins that original residents once could not leave fast enough. Number 8. Arltunga, Northern Territory. About 110 kilometers east of Alice Springs, 33 of which are unsealed road. Arltunga once held up to 3,000 people during the gold rush of 1887. Today, it is deserted. This was Central Australia's first substantial European settlement, possibly the most isolated gold rush in Australian history. At the time, Alice Springs was merely a telegraph station. The nearest major town lay 1,500 kilometers away. Supplies arrived by camel train. Prospectors traveled 600 kilometers from the Uranderey railhead, often on foot through desert, chasing fortune. Some never made it. Now, redstone ruins scatter across the McDonnell Ranges. The police station and cells remain standing, as do remnants of government battery and cyanide works. Mine shafts punctuate the landscape. The police once enforced law across thousands of square kilometers, and prisoners could not escape because nothing but desert stretched in every direction. The gold was insufficient to offset isolation. Water had to be pumped from limited sources. During severe 1890s droughts, wells ran dry and horses starved. By the 1930s, only diehards remained. In the depths of the Great Depression, some miners returned. The 1933 census recorded 198 Europeans and 56 occupied buildings. When circumstances become desperate enough, even the harshest isolation can seem like opportunity. Today, extreme heat, mine shafts, and lack of phone service, until about 20 kilometers from Alice Springs, make visits challenging. Yet with a permit, you can still fossick for gold. Men once walked 600 kilometers across desert seeking wealth here. In truth, water was always worth more than what they found. Number 7. Cossack, Western Australia. Situated 1,480 kilometers north of Perth on the Pilbara coast, Cossack once housed several thousand people during the pearling boom. Now, only one caretaker remains. National Trust. Listed bluestone colonial buildings line a tidal inlet. The old courthouse serves as a museum. There is a bond store, post office, customs house. Elegant sandstone structures that look like an English colonial outpost improbably transplanted into crocodile-inhabited waterways. Cossack was the birthplace of Western Australia's pearling industry. By the early 1870s, up to 80 luggers operated here. Pearl shell, mother of pearl, was highly valuable. The town had distinct quarters: Chinatown, Japtown, Malay Town, each with shops, tailors, bathhouses, and brothels. It was remarkably multicultural for the 1880s. But pearling's history includes brutal exploitation. Indigenous men, women, and children were forced into diving, effectively enslaved. A plaque at Cossack urges visitors to remember the suffering of Aboriginal people during the industry's darkest days. By 1895, 989 Malays and 493 Aboriginal people worked across 57 vessels. Japanese, Malay, Chinese, and indigenous divers faced sharks, decompression sickness, and drowning. The Japanese cemetery holds many who died at sea. A cyclone in 1881 devastated the town and wrecked pearling vessels. Pearl beds declined. The industry moved to Broome in 1886. The harbor silted. By 1910, the municipality was dissolved. By 1950, the last residents left. Buildings had been anchored with massive ship chains to withstand cyclones, yet the town still died. Since 2021, Cossack has been managed by the Ngarluma and Yinjabarndi Foundation, returning stewardship to traditional owners after 160 years. Accessible by sealed road, the town now hosts the Cossack Art Award each July, the nation's richest regional art prize and one of the most isolated art exhibitions in the world. Number 6. Gwalia, Western Australia. Located 233 kilometers north of Kalgoorlie and 828 kilometers east of Perth in the Great Victoria Desert, Gwalia peaked at 1,114 residents in 1910. Today, only a few caretakers remain. It is Australia's most intact ghost town. Corrugated iron and timber miners' cottages still line the streets. Through windows, furniture and personal belongings remain, as though residents expected to return at any moment. The State Hotel bar stands preserved. Australia's only surviving timber incline headframe towers overhead. The Sons of Gwalia gold mine operated from 1897 to 1963, producing 2.644 million troy ounces of gold, over 82 tons, from depths of 1,080 meters. Its first manager, a 23-year-old American mining engineer who arrived by camel in May 1897, was Herbert Hoover, future 31st President of the United States. Hoover aggressively cut costs, extended working hours, eliminated Sunday double pay, and hired Italian laborers at lower wages, sparking union tensions. He departed for China in December 1898. By 1904, his firm controlled 20 mines producing 37% of Western Australia's gold. The mine closed abruptly in December 1963 after a headframe accident. The population plummeted from 1,200 to 40 within weeks. Remoteness preserved the buildings. Demolition never came. Preservation began in 1971. Ironically, modern gold mining resumed nearby in the 1980s. Today, preserved ruins sit beside an active mine, separated by a fence. Hoover's former residence now operates as a museum and bed and breakfast. The museum opens daily from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., with a cafe at Hoover House and free 72-hour RV camping nearby. Number 5. Uranderey, New South Wales. About 70 kilometers from Oberon via unsealed road, and technically 45 kilometers from Camden as the crow flies, though inaccessible from that direction. Uranderey once had over 2,200 residents at the outbreak of World War I. Today, only caretakers remain. This silver and lead mining town is among New South Wales' most authentically preserved ghost towns. The post office, tailor shop, general store, bank, cottages, and cemetery, including many children's graves, remain restored. Silver was discovered in 1871 by Billy Russell, a part Aboriginal man, and Billy George, linked to the Gundungurra clan. They gained nothing, others profited. By 1907, Uranderey had a police station, courthouse, school, 3 churches, 2 butchers, a hotel, and even a silent movie theater. Between 1900 and 1914, 5.4 million ounces of silver, nearly 10,000 ounces of gold, and over 12,000 tons of lead were extracted. World War I drew miners away. Many never returned. From 1919 to 1920, workers endured the world's longest strike, 18 months, in solidarity with Broken Hill miners 1,000 kilometers away. An industrial lockout in 1928 delivered the final blow. Then in 1959, construction of Warragamba Dam created Lake Barragarang, severing the main road from Sydney. The dam supplies water to a city of 5 million, but effectively doomed a town of 2,000. Valerie Lude spent more than 30 years restoring Uranderey before donating the 467-hectare property to NSW National Parks at age 87. Visiting requires crossing 63 kilometers of unsealed road and 4 creek fords, with no phone service and extreme remoteness. Number 4. Mary Kathleen, Queensland. Situated 60 kilometers east of Mount Isa in the Selwyn Range, Mary Kathleen peaked at around 1,200 residents in 1981. Today, it is gone, completely demolished. Only concrete slabs and road outlines remain. An old fountain marks where an Olympic-sized swimming pool once stood. Nearby lies a vividly colored water-filled, open-cut uranium pit. Discovered in 1954 and named after the late wife of discoverer Norm McConaughey, Mary Kathleen became Australia's first significant uranium mine, supplying the Cold War nuclear industry. By the late 1950s, it featured an architect-designed township with reticulated water, cinema, golf course, hospital, which delivered over 200 babies, school, churches, banks, and sports ovals. The Australian Rules Football Club won 3 consecutive premierships from 1977 to 1979. In total, 9,000 tons of yellowcake uranium were produced. In 1982, depletion and collapsing uranium prices ended operations. On April 11, 1983, Australia's largest auction dismantled the town. Machinery, buildings, houses, even streetlights were sold. By late 1984, nothing remained. Houses were relocated to Mount Isa and Cloncurry. Today, visitors can camp freely on the slabs and travel 7 kilometers of rough road to view the radioactive pit. Number 3. Old Adaminaby, New South Wales. Old Adaminaby lies beneath Lake Uranderey in the Snowy Mountains. Once home to 700 to 800 people, it was deliberately drowned by the Snowy Mountains hydroelectric scheme, Australia's largest engineering project. Dam construction began in May 1956. At capacity, Lake Uranderey holds 4,798 gigaliters, about 9 times the volume of Sydney Harbour. Founded in the 1830s, the town had stood for nearly a century. Authorities relocated 102 buildings. St. Mary's Catholic Church was dismantled and rebuilt. The cemetery was exhumed and moved, though some graves were too old to identify. The lake began filling in 1957, submerging streets beneath up to 70 meters of water. During severe drought, when the lake falls below 20% capacity, as it did in June 2007 at a record 10%, the town reemerges. Former residents have returned to walk streets unseen since 1957. Dead trees still stand skeletal in the water. Fence lines and property boundaries reappear, the geometry of ownership preserved beneath the surface. Number 2. Joa Creek, New South Wales. Located 120 kilometers southwest of Sydney in the Southern Highlands, Joa Creek once housed around 1,200 residents. Today, it is privately owned. Tours must be booked in advance. Stone ruins from over 60 buildings remain. Hotel, general store, miners' cottages, church, school, railway, processing works, bakery, butcher, police station, post office. It was Australia's first commercial shale oil operation and once the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, producing kerosene before electric lighting existed. The kerosene illuminating Australian homes originated here. Uniquely, Joa Creek was a transplanted Scottish village. Families were recruited from Scottish mining regions, Gaelic spoken, Presbyterian traditions maintained. The school had over 80 children. Yet American petroleum competition, a destructive 1878 fire, flooding, and price undercutting led to production ceasing by 1903 and abandonment around 1911. The cemetery remains the most intact feature, headstones marking children, miners, mothers. Number 1. Wittenoom, Western Australia. Located 1,420 kilometers north of Perth in the Pilbara, Wittenoom peaked at 881 residents in 1961, though roughly 20,000 people passed through during mining years. Today, it no longer officially exists. Wittenoom was Australia's only significant blue asbestos, crucidolite, mining town. Crucidolite is the deadliest asbestos type. A single microscopic fiber can cause mesothelioma, an incurable cancer that often kills within 12 months of diagnosis. Fibers remain in lungs for life. Between 1943 and 1966, over 165,000 tons were mined. CSR Limited operated the mine, employing about 7,000 workers, while another 13,000 non-workers, including 7,000 children, lived there. Internal documents show the company knew of asbestos dangers in the 1940s, yet failed to warn workers. Children played in asbestos tailings. Roads, playgrounds, even the airport runway were contaminated. As of 2024, More than 2,000 former workers and residents have died from asbestos-related disease, with cases still emerging due to 20 to 60-year latency. The Western Australian government labeled it the nation's greatest occupational health tragedy, comparable to Chernobyl and Bhopal. In 2007, Wittenoom was officially degazetted and removed from maps. The Wittenoom closure bill became law in March 2022. Demolition began May 2023. Yet 3 million tons of asbestos tailings remain across 46,840 hectares, the largest contaminated site in the Southern Hemisphere. It is illegal to visit. There is no safe level of blue asbestos exposure. The government's message is simple: stay away. Midnight Oil immortalized it in Blue Sky Mine. The town was so deadly it was erased. Buildings were bulldozed, but contamination remains forever. These 10 towns are not ancient relics. Many thrived within living memory. Old Adaminaby's former residents still return during drought. Wittenoom victims are still dying. Each place was once home to real people: children in schools, workers in pubs, families in churches. Progress always extracts a cost. The Snowy scheme powers millions. Warragamba Dam supplies Sydney. Uranium-fueled nuclear programs. Gold built fortunes. Pearls adorned the wealthy. Yet communities vanished. Towns die. Industries collapse. What appears permanent can disappear within a generation. Nunez elaborate brickworks were built for centuries. They survived 26 years. These places are not curiosities. They are warnings. And in Wittenoom's case, the warning is still claiming lives.